Hey, it's your friendly neighborhood soup lady here, Caroline Wright. I'm going to show you one of my kind of impossible soups, cream of mushroom. You'd think I probably couldn't make a cream of mushroom vegan, huh? Well, I have a cool, couple of things that I did, a few tricks up my soup lady sleeve that I want to show you. But I wanted to tell you first, public service announcement, so this soup doesn't cost you $1 million. I went to an Asian market and I found a lot of great mushrooms there for not very expensive. So we basically need 2 pounds of delicious mushrooms. Also the baby bellas or creminis, they do the bulk of the heavy lifting, and those are cheaper and you can find those in your grocery store. But I also used a mix of shiitakes and oyster mushrooms. Use whatever mix you want, flavor mix that you like, and I'll show you how to do it. All right, so all you do is you cut up these mushrooms into quarter them or into 1-inch pieces, however that ends up working out. You sort of set that aside, and I'll show you the rest of the ingredients that we use. There are a couple of cool ones in here. So an unexpected one that you might not be thinking about would be oats, because oats will add that kind of viscosity, that mouthfeel of cream. So those come into play both at the beginning and at the end. And then we make a cool mushroom salt with dried porcini mushrooms and some nutritional yeast, which is one of my favorite secret ingredients, and some kosher salt in a blender at the very beginning of the recipe. Comes into play at the end, along with some vegan Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire sauce. Yes. It took me a while to learn how to spell that one too. Not easy to say or to spell. We have some fresh rosemary, which just grows like a weed here in Seattle, and fresh bay, and some garlic. And I want to show you how to put it all together. So while this pan warms up, these 2 ingredients, the dried porcinis and this nutritional yeast, I just took it to my blender and I made it into this delicious porcini salt. This will come into play in a minute, but I just wanted to show you before we got started, because that happens in the first step. And then what we do is we take the same pot that we're going to make the soup in. So as always, for me, it's a Dutch oven. It's cast iron. It's nice and heavy, but you could also use a skillet if yours was lighter or whatever. You could use a skillet. Just dry, no oil. I add my gluten-free rolled oats to the pan, and you stir it around a little bit until they're nice and golden brown. They can even be a little bit charred. You're actually kind of looking for that dark flavor. A little bit charred, some of them, and they're very nutty smelling. And I'm just going to take them out of the pan. There we go. And now to this hot pan, I'm going to add some oil and just start my soup. It's actually a very quick cooking soup. You'll see. I'm going to use my onion, and I'm going to season it with a little bit of salt, not too much, because that porcini salt still comes into play, and I don't want to make the soup too salty. And I'm going to cook this just until the onion is tender. All right, so we're going to add our mushrooms now that our onion is nice and tender, a little bit brown. You don't want to let it get too brown because we're still going to be cooking these mushrooms. But all we're looking to do here is cook these mushrooms. So these are nice pieces of oyster mushrooms. Yum. Oyster, shiitake, cremini, hard to beat. Though a chanterelle would be really good in here too, man. So these will deflate significantly. They'll collapse by about half, and they'll start to release their liquid, which is what we're looking for. Uncovered until they just start to cook down a little bit. So these mushrooms have collapsed by about half, and they're giving me a nice facial when I'm over them. But what that tells me is that they're releasing their liquid. So what we can do now is add this trusty mushroom salt, the porcini mushrooms, nutritional yeast, and salt that we made at the beginning of the recipe. We go ahead and add that, and we add our bay leaf and rosemary. And then now I add this water, all of the water, and you bring it to a boil. And then once it's boiling, you simmer it for about 10 minutes until the mushrooms are nice and tender, and then you take away some of the broth to blend with the tahini, the roasted oats that you made at the beginning of the recipe, and the vegan Worcestershire sauce. All right, here we go. Whoa. So we got some of you can see the dried porcini, and it's kind of has some pieces in it. That's okay. I promise you won't see them at the end. So you take about 2 cups of just liquid, the broth. And I'm going to take my roasted oats with me as I just disappear off screen, and with my tahini and my Worcestershire sauce. And I'm going to blend it all together into a very thick mess. I don't know, smoothie kind of. And then I stir it back into the soup for the oats to, cook and thicken the soup. You'll see. So it'll transform this. In the meantime, I'll just leave this simmering a little bit. My toasted oats, my tahini, and my Worcestershire sauce. So I blended those ingredients together. We now have this is where the cream comes in, right? So we have these nicely simmered mushrooms still in that delicious broth that I used some of. And I just pour it in. This is that oat, tahini, and Worcestershire mixture. The roasted oats come into play here, and then they'll thicken up nicely. You just sort of bring it back to a simmer. But we just want to cook the sort of raw, whatever remaining raw oat flavor, and we want to give the oats a chance to thicken up the soup. So we just stir it for a little bit, and you'll see it'll thicken up nicely. All right, look at this. That's what I'm talking about. That looks like some delicious cream of mushroom soup right there. And now that we have it thickened up, I'm going to season it with some cider vinegar. Really, sherry vinegar would be chef's kiss, but cider vinegar works great too. So just enough to give it a little bit of a lift. I'm going to taste it now and see what it needs salt and pepper wise. Then you're all good. So good. I love this soup. I also love this soup as like an ingredient for other things, like, how, Midwestern moms use a can of Campbell's as a base for other stuff. I love playing around with this recipe that way too. Really good. It will add a little pinch of salt and pepper though. Yum. And for this one, I like to serve it in a fun way of, if I'm going to have a bowl of this, I like to combine my salad and soup, serve it topped with certainly some sort of crouton or with a piece of bread. Delicious, don't get me wrong. But actually, if you put a dressed salad, I love arugula actually, dressed in a zingy vinaigrette on top is delicious and, makes it nice and fresh. I will give this bowl a try. So cozy. Delicious. I hope you liked learning about my cream of mushroom soup. It's on page 87 of my Soup Club cookbook, which I hope you'll pick up at booklarder.com or wherever you buy your books. And you'll join me here next time, either at soupclubcookbook.com or here on my YouTube channel or via Instagram. However you find me, press like and subscribe. See you next week.